Feel the velvet smoothness of a continuously variable transmission hooked up to an all-wheel drive system, because this just in, the 2020 Nissan Altima with all-wheel drive. This is what I would consider one of the more comfortable vehicles in this class, because when you drive it, you really are in the lap of comfort. Now, let me explain. It's not a question of suspension setup, which is, it's okay. It's not too bad. And it's not the all-wheel drive system, and it's certainly not the CVT, although all of those things are decent. It's these seats. My God, they're comfortable. I mean, really, really comfortable. I am truly impressed with the comfort of the seating, the setup of the interior, how quiet it is. It is fairly quiet, and how smooth it is. Now, look. Not a high-performance vehicle. Got my foot down. It's moving okay. We'll talk about the 2.5-liter engine when we park. And the numbers are not too bad. However, the real thing about this vehicle is its daily drivability and its all-wheel drive system. Because you have all of the goodness of an all-wheel drive car without too many of the short fallings that they have. Really don't feel a lot of power drop off. It's an economical vehicle. It's really not that expensive. And as you drive it, you really don't feel the all-wheel drive system, so there's not a lot of drag from it. So those are all really good things. But once again, it all comes back to this interior, because it is extremely comfortable. It's very well put together. This might be one of the better Nissan interiors I have been in, period, actually. I think it's nicer than the Nissan Maxima. I think it's nicer than even some of the products they put out through the name Infiniti. I'm not kidding. Not so much in terms of aesthetics, but in terms of comfort. So you have to take my word from it. But look, I'm a big, chunky American, and being able to be this comfortable in these seats as I drive along on some actually rather rutted roads. I mean, these roads suck in this area. That kind of says something, doesn't it? Now, as we drive, and as we're working our way over to where we park, and we'll do our walk around of this vehicle, I did want to discuss a few things about the overall layout of the interior. First of all, I'm really hip to the fact that they're not using any fake carbon fiber, and they're not going too crazy on fake metals or anything else. They're keeping things subdued and very tasteful. I like the raised white stitching. I always like raised stitching that is an off color. This looks great. This metal trim here, I think this is a fantastic touch. And this instrumentation, this component section right here, I really like. And I'll get to that in a minute when we go over the interior, when we do our walk around. But there's more, because you're not driving a vehicle that has, it's not a sports car, okay guys? Bottom line. And in terms of visual aesthetics, it's not as pretty as the Mazda 6 is. The Mazda 6 has one of the best looking interiors in the class. It does. This is really nice, but it's a question of actual physical comfort, and that's what I keep coming back to. As I drive this car, I keep thinking to myself, dude, I could sit in this thing forever. And I actually have some experience with this, because I had the opportunity to drive one of these not only on a snow course and bouncing around during a heavy snow, but also I got a chance to drive one of these through a fairly heavy spring storm with rain and heavy wind and hail. And I gotta say, it was an island of tranquility, and that had to do mostly with the comfort of the interior and how stable the car was in terms of driving. Two positives. Will it light the world on fire in terms of performance? Absolutely not. Will it make your hair stand on end when you look at it? No, not probably. Not. I mean, you know, it's not. It's good looking. It's just not exactly what I'd call something that makes you feel passionate. That's what other cars do. But as a package, it's actually pretty impressive. Let's step outside. I'm going to pop the hood, and we're going to talk about the engine. I like the color too, by the way. Most of the ones that I've been driving have been red. This one is a very, nice looking silver. And in terms of its styling, I mean, it's not bad looking. The one thing about Nissan is that a lot of their cars are beginning to look alike. And that's done on purpose, but this is really what we need to talk about. So come on in here and have a look-see, because we're talking about not a 2-liter, but a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine. Now, its output is impressive because it puts out 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Yes, it's hooked up to a continuously variable transmission, a CVT. And they've gotten better over time to where it feels like an automatic transmission. It's not super loud, it doesn't rev super crazy, and they put a system in there that feels like an automatic transmission shifting, even though it's not shifting because it doesn't need to shift. Now, it's also hooked up to an all-wheel drive system that's pretty much identical to the one that's in, let's say, the Nissan Rogue Sport or even the regular Rogue. A majority of their vehicles that are front drive, front bias, but have a rear end that can kick in, and it is mechanical. Now, an engine like this, you would think, oh, okay, it's pretty peppy. Well, check it out. 26 city, 36 miles per gallon highway, 30 mpg combined. For a vehicle that has all-wheel drive, that is excellent. Really good gas mileage. And it does it on regular fuel. So those are all positives, right? Is it a lot of fun to drive? No. No, it's really not all that exciting. But that's not the point of this car. Now, let's take a little walk around and talk about some styling, shall we? Let me shut the hood. Close the hizzy. Now, starting from the front, you can see one of the things that they do in order to make it look like a member of the Nissan family. This whole sculpted area here, which I think is actually attractive. It's not bad looking at all. I kind of like this little wisp of black plastic that's in here. It's cool looking. The only problem I have with it is that if you look at the Sentra, if you look at even now the Versa and the Maxima, they all kind of look the same. So you really have to squint to figure out which one is which at a distance. Fortunately, side profile is a little bit different. Let's have a look. I'm not a big fan of the wheels, by the way, but everything else in terms of its overall shape is pretty nice. Come over here, I wanted to show you something. This is one thing that I don't mind, their floating roof design, but the Maxima kind of has this as well, and I was kind of hoping they'd do something different for this car. This is basically an insert, by the way, that goes in here. There's no functional reason for this, it's just for looks. But all in all, even though it has a pinched off section here, all of this is, you can't see through it obviously. Visibility from inside isn't too bad, and that's a good thing, even with the mirrors. So, good stuff there. Let's look at the back. Oh no, they went and did it. It actually has exhaust pipes, and they're somewhat functional. When I say somewhat, there's really no reason for a car like this to have dual exhaust. It's not a sports car. But at least they're not fake inputs, and at least they're real in terms of not being a piece of plastic, which a lot of people do, and I can't stand that. Functional exhaust, that's a good thing. Let's look at the trunk real quick. Yep, all-wheel drive SV. Yeah, now if you can see deep in there, and I'm not so sure you can, but that is a pretty decent amount of space. Yes, 20/40 split rear seats. Good utility, fairly good sized trunk. The funny thing about this vehicle is that its backseat space is more usable than the larger Nissan Maxima. Go figure. That platform is a lot older though. Let's look at the interior. I will meet you in the inside. Now, first, before we sit down, have a look at these seats, because this is really the star attraction. Nissan calls this their zero gravity seats. And that's because there's a special type of foam that's in here, and it does, according to them, feel like you're sitting in space, floating around, not really sitting on a seat. I disagree with that. You still have your big chunky butt sitting down on something, but it feels really good. It's a super squishy fabric that's in there. And it is a foam, but it really does have a lot of give, and it really does a great job with kind of holding you in at the same time. Really impressed with this stuff. Wish they would put it on more cars. Come on in, let's have a look at the rest of the interior here. I know I get excited by simple things, right? But so do some of you. Especially when you're looking at a car like this and you're like, look, I gotta spend some money on this. I want the best that I can get. Here's the good news. Great stereo system, great infotainment system, really good space, good cubby space, drink holder space, decent sized glove compartment, all the stuff that a basic car in this class would have. But what I like is the simple design features they have here. I like this quality. Can you hear this? I like that. I know it's so simple, but it makes me feel like what I'm moving has quality to it, has heft to it. The buttons here are all well placed. I like having these controls here instead of somewhere else hidden. Seat controls, steering wheel controls, especially in a cold climate where a vehicle like this makes sense because all-wheel drive. This whole section here is really well put together. Thank you, Nissan, for not having a push-button system. Very simple, very nice, easy, no big deal. This central display, let me fire this up. It's pretty nice, it's a good size, and you're able to easily go through different functions. By the way, look at that. Averaging 31.7 mpg. Now that is a lot of highway driving, but not entirely. That is really good. Once again, this is an all-wheel drive car. Usually that type of drag is detrimental to good MPG. So I really do like how efficient this vehicle is. And as I said before, I've driven this in snow, heavy snow, in a snowy outdoor environment that was built specifically to make cars lose traction. So it was like a obstacle course, and it did really well. It takes the torque that you need and sends it to the rear when requested. Otherwise it completely disconnects it, so that way you're not suffering from extra drag. It's a simple system, works really well. It is not a sports car, so even though you want to drift around and have all that power go to the rear, not really going to happen. Good news is that's not the purpose of this vehicle. It's a safety precaution. That power going to the rear will help you get through a corner or up a slippery hill. So that's its whole purpose. You want performance? Well, that's what the GTR is for, right? Let's go to the outside. By the way, actually, before we do that, I want to show you the back seat. So I'm about 6'1", and I'm very comfortable right here. Let me show you the back. Now, as many of you noticed, I'm wearing a boot, so it takes up even more space than a regular foot. I have plenty of space under the front seat, and that's important. And then on top of that, I have decent leg room. Okay, once again, I'm sitting behind myself. Headroom is pretty good, but it could be a little bit better. Because of the way this slopes back, if I lean my head back, I can feel it just scraping on the roof, right up here. But in terms of sitting normal like a regular human being, it's okay. The legroom is the great part. Headroom, not too bad. I'll meet you guys up front. Huzzah! I have the window sticker. So let's talk about pricing, but also let's talk about what's new for 2020, because this came out as of 2019, and they're having a couple minor changes. For one, there's been a price bump of $100 on the base model. Nissan Safety Shield is standard on the SR model and above, so it is standard on this, and it has things like pedestrian detection. The driver assist package is optional on the base S trim, so now you can get that available if you really want it on the very base model. Now, you saw the trim in there, a little bit of the piano black. That is Available on the SV, SL, and Platinum. And then the Platinum version, which is the very top of the line of this, gets mirror memory function. That's it. Those are the updates. Not a whole lot of them. But here's the important part. This vehicle, as equipped, MSRP, $32,495. In my book, that is impressive. Considering what you get for the price, all the stuff that's standard, all the tech, that really comfortable interior, and a damn good all-wheel drive system, that is extremely competitive. So there you go. Now here's the good part for you guys. We're not done with this car. One of the reasons we do this just in is to introduce you to the car, because in the future, we're going to be putting that car up against another all-wheel drive vehicle. So stay tuned for that. For the Fast Lane Car, this is Nathan. Don't forget to go to TFLcar.com for more news, views, real-world reviews. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you later.